Elle, and these are all the books that I read in September. So the first book that I read in September was Black Heart by Holly Black, and that is the third book in the Curse Workers trilogy. This book I did not like as much as the first two books. I gave this 4 stars instead of 5 stars, which I gave to the 2 first books. Mostly because there were a lot of plot lines in this book. Like, way too many. You couldn't keep them all straight in your head, and it was really confusing. It all got together very nicely in the end, but like the first third, yeah, something like that, was really confusing. Still, I would suggest giving this series a try, but because overall it's a really good series. It's a thriller, urban fantasy thingy with mafia and magic and stuff. The next book that I read I absolutely loved, and that was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Oh, I've been wanting to read this book for so long, and I was not disappointed. I know that quite a few people were because there was so much hype around it, but I was still kind of aware that, yeah, you know, there were some people who didn't like it, so maybe I won't like it, so I didn't hype it up that much to myself, and I really, really liked it. And as you have all heard about this book is that you can't really say that much about it. It just needs to be a surprise. And that's what it does. But yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. The ending was brilliant. Next up we have a physical book, and that is Reboot by Amy Tintera. This is a science fiction, dystopian, YA thingy. I don't know how to classify this book. I guess it's dystopian, but I mean it's kind of science fiction-y anyway, so yeah, well, whatever. So this takes place in the future. As I said, it's a dystopian, so you know, the world, or at least America, has gone to total shit. And our main character is Ren Connolly, who is a reboot, meaning that she died and then she woke up. In her case, 178 minutes. 178 minutes after she died, she woke up. And that makes her pretty much super badass, but also makes her kind of emotionally disconnected from the world. And I guess that was kind of what brought this book down a little tiny bit for me. I gave it 4.5 stars because it was a really good book. It really was. I flew through it. It was really good. But yeah, the main character was a tiny bit hard to connect to, and I guess that's kind of the point because she's not supposed to be really human anymore. But, yes. So the next book that I read was a book I read on my Kindle, and that was If You Could Be Mine by Sarah Farisan. And this is a YA novel, but the thing is, I expected it to be an adult novel, even though I knew that it was YA, which makes me sad. Because the premise for this book has so much philosophical potential, and there are so many questions that could be just thoroughly explored, but they weren't, because it's YA, and it's a really short book as well. I think it was like 240 pages, maybe. It was really short, so I mean, it didn't have that much span to talk about things. So this book is about 2 girls, Nasrin and Sahar, who live in Iran. And they are in love, and that isn't very good, because as I said, they live in Iran, where it is illegal to be homosexual, and they could get killed if they are found out. So yeah, they kind of have their little romance in secret, and then the thing is that Nasrin gets betrothed to a man. So then Sahar just kind of tries to go through with this. So she's like, yeah, I'll have to leave Nasrin. I don't have a choice because, yeah, and you know, what am I supposed to do? And then she realizes that she could possibly come out as being trans. And then she could get a surgery, and then she could possibly get to marry Nasrin. So I felt like it just had such a good premise, like the choice between getting to love the person that you love openly, or having to sacrifice yourself and the body that you belong in. And I wanted the philosophical questions to be explored, but they were not. and I am sad. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars because it wasn't a bad book. It wasn't what I expected at all, which is sad. The next book that I read was The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. And, I can't rate this. I just feel like it's such an inappropriate notion to rate a book like this. This is a book... Yeah, I definitely think this is a book that everyone should read. I think that it's a very important historical document. But I feel like if I'm supposed to rate it on Goodreads, I can't rate it any other way than 5 stars because of the historical importance that it has. But then, when you hover over the little 5th star, it says it was amazing. And that's just the wrong word to use. You can't read a book like this and be like, it was amazing. It just feels wrong. I've been wanting to read this book since I was visiting Amsterdam this summer when I went to the Anne Frank house, which was a very good museum. That's the same thing. You can't say that it was good or anything because it's just the wrong word. It's just one of those things that everyone should experience that is really important. And the same thing is with this book. The next book that I read was First Test by Tamora Pierce. This is the first book in The Protector of the Small Quartet. This takes place about 10 years after the end of the Song of the Lioness Quartet, and since then it has become legal for girls to train to become knights in Tortal. And so yeah, this book is about the first ever girl to take up on this opportunity, called Celadri of Mindolin. And yeah, it's about her adventures and stuff. I was a bit concerned when first starting this book because I was afraid that Celadri would be very much like Alana, but that is not at all the case. Celadri, I really like Celadri. She's calm and collected, and she has such an amazing sense of justice, and she's so kind, and I admire her so much. I really like Celadri. I really do. And also, what's fun about this quartet is that it's a lot more about social issues than the Song of the Lioness Quartet was. The Song of the Lioness was more like adventure, while this is both adventure, of course, but it's also social criticism, which I really like, because, you don't often see that much of social criticism in books for younger people. So I think that this is written for, say, 12-year-olds, 12 to 15, sort of the same span that Percy Jackson is written for, that kind of span where it's yeah, it's written for 12-year-olds, but everyone reads it anyway, and yeah. I gave this 5 stars because I loved it, and I think that you all should read Tamora Pierce because Tamora Pierce is amazing. And next up, I read Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which has such an ugly cover, guys. This is not a pretty cover by any means. Oh no. So yeah, this is a YA paranormal romance, I guess you could call it. It's about aliens and stuff. And I really did like how this book was written. I really liked the main character. She made sense. I liked the main character. She was really good. But the hero, though, the male protagonist, he irritates me so much. He's really the archetype of that dude who's just hot and cold all the time. The extreme YA bad boy, sort of. And I was so irritated with him. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue this series. I might. But I don't want to read about this dude. This dude pisses me off. You don't act like that. That's weird. I can't sit and try and settle in for romance. I can't root for these people. It doesn't work. I love the heroine. But the hero... Oh, no. Does he get better? Please tell me, because Oh, no. I was so irritated. So irritated. By the way, ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Next up, I read Page by Tamora Pierce, the second book in The Protector of the Small Quartet. which I obviously can't tell you much about because it's the second book in a series, but you know, you can see the title, so it's like, yeah, she's a page now. Yay! And it was good, and I gave it 5 stars, and I liked it, and yeah, you know, the normal things, the usual things that I say about Tamora Pierce, I am sending out to you now in little telepathic waves. And we come down to the very last book, which is not a book, it's a graphic novel, and that is the first volume of Fables, aka Legends in Exile. And I ended up borrowing this from my library because, gosh, The Wolf Among Us is such an amazing game. I love that game so much. So I decided that I really wanted to read the graphic novels it was based off of. And yeah, my library has them all. But however, my library is like currently down, like they are moving. So I won't get the next numbers of the graphic novels until like maybe December, and it makes me sad because I want to read them, and graphic novels are so expensive. Like, I don't want to put out that money on something that will only take me like half an hour to read. It's like, no, I'm not that rich, unfortunately. But anyway, Fables. It's by Bill Willingham? Yeah? Bill Willingham? I think that's his name. If it's not his name, I will write it down below. Yeah, anyway. So this is fantasy, I would guess. Yeah. It's basically about all these fairy tale characters who had to escape the so-called homelands to our world. So now they live in our world, and they try to, you know, keep their identities hidden and stuff. So we have Beauty and the Beast, and we have Snow White, and we have the Big Bad Wolf. The Big Bad Wolf is pretty much the main character. He's called Bigby Wolf, and he is the sheriff of Fabletown, which is what they call the little underground community. And yes, I like this first book. I didn't like it as much as The Wolf Among Us, but yeah, well, that's a thing that you'll have to handle. So I think that there are like 20 volumes out or so. So I mean, it's a lot of stuff that I get to read, and I'm happy because I liked it. So those were all the books that I read this month. Have you read any of these books? Please tell me what you thought about them. And please tell me if I should continue with the Lux series, because I do not know. And I will see you next time. Bye!